if your heart is heavier than the feather, then what happens is that you are reincarnated. You're reincarnated so that you can continue to learn and grow. Hi there. Thanks for joining me with another episode of Still Growing. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you are a subscriber, thank you for joining me again. Okay, so today we're continuing the discussion of African spirituality. And so today we're discussing karma and incarnation. So actually these two concepts that actually leads one into the other, part of the whole concept of African spirituality. We are most often familiar with the term karma in reference to Indian culture, but of course we know that comes from the original Ari, I think is what it's called in ancient Kamitan philosophy. It's known as Ari. So here we're dealing with the mythical deity of Ma'at. And if you don't know of Ma'at, Ma'at is the deity of truth, honor, and righteousness. And so therefore Ma'at teaches us, in order to live a righteous life, there are certain principles that you would need to follow. So at the end of life, you have the scale of life, or the scale of righteousness. And with that scale, on one end, it has a feather, and on the other end, it has your heart. And your heart is supposed to be lighter than the feather in order to pass on into eternal bliss or happiness. Eternal bliss, which basically means to become one with the Supreme. And if your heart is heavier than the feather, then what happens is that you are reincarnated. You're reincarnated so that you can continue to learn and grow. And so other deities would then take over and determine where you would be reincarnated, what family you'd be reincarnated in, what society, and what, for instance, what social status, that sort of thing. And all of that is meant in order to help you to become spiritually, in order to help you spiritually grow. Now, let's say, for instance, you were, let's say, a murderer or a killer or something like that. Then what happens is that you would be reincarnated as someone that would be able to experience the pain and suffering that you inflict upon someone else in your previous life. For instance, you might come into a situation where you are rendered helpless while you see your children and family being abused and tortured and things like that, or you yourself might be the one that's being tortured. And all of this is not a punishment that is placed on you, but is determined by your own actions, because it's your action in your previous life that created the faith that you have in your reincarnated life. Now, once you're reincarnated, at that point, you are, as I said, you are placed in a certain situation in order to give you the chance of self-discovery and the ability to grow and develop. However, what we should all know is that there is always the choice that is given to you. As human beings, we have the choice to make decisions, and the decisions that we make again reflect what happens to us going forward. So that's why when we're living now, we need to be choosing or making choices that are beneficial not just to ourselves, but are beneficial to mankind in general, because we do not want to keep just reliving life and constantly suffering. We want to be able to be pure of heart and to be able to have the chance to meet our higher self and to become one with our heart, and to become one with the divine that lives within. So although you're given a certain faith because of your action previously, you can always overcome that faith by how you live that life that you currently have. And as I mentioned in the previous video, on your deathbed is way too late to make changes. On your deathbed, at that point, you cannot pray to God to be able to go to heaven, or not that there is that place, because we know that energy constantly lives. It's not sitting somewhere else. But I digress. When you're on your deathbed is definitely not the time to be saying, help me, Father, I have sinned, and so on. That's the time that you want to be able to know that you've done your best and that you have lived a righteous life. So, in terms of my aunt, in today's society, we know of her in terms of the scale of justice. You see that in the courtrooms and place of and police stations and things like that. You see the scale of justice. That's where that whole philosophy comes from. It comes from my aunt, because my aunt, she is the one that will eventually proceed over determine what happens to us based on the choices that we previously make in our life. Okay, so karma, as they say, karma is a bitch. Just in terms of the fact that, if you cannot escape your karma, whatever you do now will eventually come back to you. Sometimes we have people who we see, it's very disturbing to me sometimes when I watch TV and I see, for instance, I see the priests and whatnot that are abusing these children, and it looks as if, other people in society that knows what's going on, that has the ability to make changes, are not doing anything about it. Rest assured that eventually they will have their faith. They will have their karma. They will have to pay for their sins in terms of pain and suffering. And it won't be somewhere in hell. It will be here on earth. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Until next time, peace and love. Bye-bye.